Hi, I'm Kyle Parrington. I hope you're doing well. Today I'll be giving an overview of our CSI2132 project. So we're Group 40. I'm Kyle Parrington. My partner is David Hugh Wing. The application that we decided to model for our project was AirBnB. The DBMS we used was PostgreSQL, and we built a web application written in Python using the Flask framework and PySco PG2 library. This library basically allows you to write PostgreSQL statements in Python and interact with the database. The front end of our application was implemented with HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So if you go over to the repo, we can see all the different frequencies of these technologies being used throughout the project. Python was used the most, obviously, because that's how we implemented the backend with Flask, and that's also how we implemented the data generation script. HTML for rendering the web pages, of course, CSS for styling the web pages, and a minimal amount of JavaScript was used for some form validation and selection. You can see we don't have too much in the way of CSS, and that is because the main focus of the project was on the back-end side of things, not the front-end side of things. And we built a web application instead of a CLI, basically because we want to get our feet wet and learn a new framework. So we decided to learn Flask, and we just thought the implementation of a CLI would be kind of boring. So yeah. How to get the project running. So I feel like this is pretty straightforward. I just want to mention that if you use method 1 to restore using backup file and pgadmin 4, so you'll be restoring your database using this default data.backup file we provide. Basically, you will have your database will be populated with the same data you'll be seeing in this presentation, but if you navigate through the application, you will just not see any images, and that is because images are saved to the static images folder as data is generated. So basically, when the using method 2, as data is generated using the data generation script, we scrape the web and different APIs for images, and we save these images to the static images folder. And at the same time, we also store the paths to these images in the database. So basically, whenever a user clicks on anything in the application that requires an image to be loaded, Flask then serves this image to the user basically as a web page. So if you use method 1, you will not have those images, but if you use method 2, you will have those images. So just be aware of that. And yeah, so let's start up the project. So I'm in the root directory of the project, python3app.py, and let's get it going. So we go to browser, port 5000, and here we are on the home page. So we can see all this randomly generated data. So basically how the home page works is it will show you 20 randomly selected properties. It's saying register to book some of these amazing stays. That's kind of cool. So we can see all this different properties. You can see all this stuff is randomly generated. Nothing's the same. That's pretty cool. We can see some fun facts about Airbnb. So total users, total properties, total completed stays, total countries. So we have some statistics here, and all these statistics are basically grabbed from the database. So for total completed stays, for example, we're looking at rental agreements where the end date is less than or equal to today, and the host user signed off on the rental agreement. So that basically means the stay has been completed. So that's pretty cool. So we can register, we can say Kyle Pinkerton, we can say Kyle, password, we can say 1, street name, let's say street, or let's say best street, I don't know, postal code, something, 190702, let's put some stuff. You'll see that all these fields are validated, but we're just not going to show too many examples of that, or if any, because that would just take too long for the presentation, so we're just going to skip that, but you can play around with it if you want. You can see there's a lot of selections for countries, so we sign up, so account created for Kyle, that's cool, so we can log in, so we say Kyle, okay, yeah, so I'm doing it too fast, so you can see login unsuccessful, because there's a check for that, so you can see the form validation, so we log in, and it works, so you've been logged in, okay, that's cool. So I can be on the home page, I can search these random properties. So let's say, oh, this property looks pretty cool. Let's look at this user. So this is the host user who owns the property. We can see what they're all about. You can see this is all randomly generated. We view their property. Okay, they have some cool properties. This is the one we want to check out. So let's click on this property. It brings us to the individual property page. So we can click on this and it'll bring down a little menu for us to choose a date. We choose some dates, check availability. It's loading, and the property is available during those dates, so we could book that if we wanted to. So that's pretty cool. And we could also use the search function. So say I need to bring at least 5 guests, and I want it to be accessible, and I want to go to, let's just say Afghanistan, and we search for a property. So this should be in Afghanistan. It should be a minimum of 5 guests. It is, and it's accessible. So that's pretty cool. So we have 17 results, and all of them should be like that. So Afghanistan, minimum 5 guests and accessible. Afghanistan, minimum 5 guests, accessible. So okay, we can search like that too. So that's pretty cool. We go to account. We can see all this is not filled in yet because it's a fresh account. We can update some of this. So we can get verified. Would I like to be verified? Get verified. So we're verified now. It's a pretty easy way to get verified, but there it is. We can update our profile picture. So say let's dine without a tray, I guess. Update my profile picture, so that's pretty cool. We can see account info. We can see this is all the stuff we use to register. So we can change my phone number if I want. So like 705 for something, and then some random number, and we'll see it updates to that. So that's pretty cool. Account, we can go to your properties. So we don't have any properties yet. We can add a property. So let's add a property. Let's say I don't know, property name. I'm sorry, I don't have very good names. So street name. Some random stuff. Rate 99. Let's say 543. Accessible, sure. And we live in Canada, and we're in Ontario. And no pets allowed because we don't want cats to mess up my house, mess up my couches and stuff. So let's give it a picture, a house, create property. So we created a property. So create property created for property name. Cool. Okay. So we have a property now. We can see my picture. We add another property. So if we go back to account, we can go to your properties, and we see it's the same. So it's saved. That's pretty cool. Okay. And we go to payment method, and we can go to payout method. So we could add either one of those. They're basically the same thing. So let's just add a payment method, and let's do Visa, Kyle Pinkerton, card number. Don't steal my credit card. This needs to be 3 numbers, and then we just choose Canada, add payment method, and cool. So we have a payment method now. So we go back, and it's saved. Okay, so that's pretty cool. That's for a fresh user, that what we can do and what it looks like to register and do all that. And so let's log in as a property employee. So this employee basically is assigned to properties to work at and perform maintenance tasks and things like that. So go to account. We can see I'm an employee of the branch operating in Albania. My direct manager is this guy. So I can click on him. I can see he works as an Airbnb employee. He could have properties if he wants and stuff like that, but he doesn't because he's an employee. You are a property worker. Go here to see what properties I'm assigned. So I can go here. I can see that, oh, I'm assigned to this property. So this is where I have to go to do my work assignments. So that's cool. I can see all that information. And you can see that I also just have the basic user setup as any normal user, so there's a lot of customizability. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's property user. Let's just do admin, or that was a property employee. Sorry. So let's log in as admin. So this is basically the master admin account, just admin. So we log in account. You can see I'm an employee of the branch operating in Canada. I'm an admin. Go here to access the admin console. So I go to the admin console, and we can just enter in queries and query the database. So I can say select star from users where work equals Airbnb employee. We can perform that query, and you can see we returned all these rows. So we can see that we have 626 people who have Airbnb employee as their work. So that means we have 600 or like over 600 Airbnb employees for a website that has about 6,000 users. So that's probably not good. Oh, oops, I'm opening something. Just move that over for now. But yeah, so you can see that we can also enter some random stuff, and it will have good error messages. So that's pretty cool. Okay. So that's the admin and the admin consoles. We can log out. We can log back in. So let's log in this time as a branch manager. So we log in as a branch manager. Okay, so we go to account, and I can see you're an employee of the branch operating in Iran. I'm the lead manager of this branch. You're a branch manager. Go here to access the branch manager portal. I go to the branch manager portal. I can view my branch's employees. So all these employees will be from Iran because there's one branch per country, and this branch is in Iran. So all these employees will be from Iran. So I can see myself. I can see that I'm a manager to myself, which means I have no manager since I manage myself. I manage this guy, Carehold, and he's property employee, so he's assigned this property. So let's copy his name. I already have it copied, but we can copy his name, and we can go back to the branch manager portal, and we can view short-term available properties. So these are properties that are available in the next 2 days, and we can see there's a lot of them, and we can see they're all from Iran, or they're all located in Iran because that is where this branch is located. We can only see properties located in our branch, so that's cool. We can view short-term unavailable properties, and we can see they're all from Iran too. And these are properties that are unavailable in the next 2 days. So that means these are going to have to be cleaned up by a property employee. So we can go to assign employees to properties. We can assign Carehold, that property employee that we saw, to that property, which is going to be unavailable in the next few days. So it's going to need to be cleaned up. So we assign them to the property. That's successful. We can go back, and we can see that that worked. So if your branch's employees, we can see Carehold has now been assigned that property. So that is pretty cool. And we can click on that property, and we can scroll down, and we can view if it's available. It shouldn't be available during these dates. So yeah, we can see that it's not available on these following dates because it's booked. So that makes sense. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's log out. So that was all the different users and stuff. Let's go look at some update delete operations. So person, we have a foreign key to country. On update no action, on delete cascade. So this makes sense because country is basically the primary key of branches. So if we update the country of a branch, so that means that branch moved to a different country, we don't want to update this person's country because this person didn't move anywhere. The branch moved countries, not the person. So that makes sense. We don't want to update it. And on delete cascade, so let's say we have a branch operating in Canada, and Airbnb decides it's not going to be operating in Canada anymore. So we just want to get rid of all the users and properties that were located in Canada because those will no longer be valid. So we want to delete it. So that makes sense. Okay. Users, we have a foreign key username on update cascade, on delete cascade. So if this user updates its username, we want to update it. That makes sense. And if this user deletes itself, we want to delete the username, or we want to delete this user, so that makes sense. Because if the user deletes itself, we still don't want this entry in the table. So okay. Property, so country, on update no action, on delete cascade. This is the same thing that we explained for person. If the country moves to a different, or if the branch moves to a different country, we don't want to update it because this property isn't magically going to move with the branch, right? That's not going to happen. And if the country is no longer supported, like Airbnb doesn't want to operate in Canada anymore, then we're going to get rid of this property too. Username, same thing as the last one. If the username changes its name, we want to update it. If the username deletes, or if the user deletes himself, we want to just get rid of this property because this property will no longer be available because the user no longer exists who owns the property. Property taken dates. So project property, it matches property name. So on update cascade, on delete cascade. So that makes sense. So if the property is updated, or the property name is updated, we want to update it here because that will reflect the same property. On delete, so if the property name is deleted, we want to delete the entry here because that property is no longer existing. Okay, so that makes sense. Let's do a couple more, maybe. I think rental agreement's a good one. So username on update cascade. So if the user changes their name, we want to update it as usual. But if the username is deleted, we want to set it to null because we still want this rental agreement. We don't want to delete the rental agreement because this user deleted itself. We still need this in the record, so that makes sense. And that goes for these ones too. So if the property is deleted, we just want to set to null because we still want this rental agreement, and cascade if it changes because we want to update that change. So we're group 40, so we have to basically explain query 10. So where's query 10? Query 10. So where's it? Sorry. Create and test a user-defined function named first name first that combines two attributes of the guest name first name and last name into a concatenated value full name. So basically, this is our function, create function first name first, varchar returns varchar as $, select concat first name. This is a space. It'll basically concatenate this first name with the space and last name, so we'll put a space in between the names. From person, where first name equals $1, so whatever we enter here, this is that variable representing that, and this is that variable representing this. So if we put Bob Jones, it'll be Bob Jones here. So um, to test it, basically we find a valid entry in person. So we select first name, last name from person. So we find this Antonio Kennedy, and then we can call the function on Antonio Kennedy because he will be selected from person, so it's valid, and we'll see that it works. We'll get Antonio Kennedy first name first. So thank you. That is the presentation, and I hope you enjoy the application. So thanks.